Hey folks, so I was working on another video and I had my Spyderco Endura 4 out and I was looking at the clip and I actually bought this new from another YouTube member, Valerie Ann Lee, and thanks Valerie, again, love this knife. Um, and Spyderco uses these painted black clips on a lot of their, I think on the Endura and the Delica line. They might use it on some other knives that I'm not thinking of at the moment. But what's such a shame about these clips is that the coating wears off. And I'm really careful with my knives. This one, it doesn't really ever get caught or scratched on anything, but as you can see, the coating all around the edges of the clip has worn off. And what also makes these clips kind of weird is that they don't really match the rest of the knife. I mean, unless you buy a black Delica or Endura, I don't really see the black matching too much. I mean, even the hardware that they use on the clip is, a silver or chrome or just stainless steel finish. And so if you saw my cold steel American Lawman video where I use steel wool to remove the coating from the blade, I'm going to go ahead and try that same method with this clip. Now I don't know if the metal underneath is shiny or dull or what. And if it's dull underneath this, I may have to polish it. But I'm going to grab a chunk of steel wool here and just kind of rub some of that away. So give me 1 second. I'll actually do a bit of this, if not all of it, on camera. So let me put you on pause. I'm going to grab my tools and then we'll take this clip off together and wear away some of that coating and see what it looks like underneath. So hang in there 1 second. Okay, I am back. I usually like to use my individual Craftsman drivers just because they have a little bit more reach, but I couldn't find them at the moment. So I'm going to go ahead and use that Pittsburgh, I think it's Pittsburgh Pro, that little folding multi-tamper-proof Torx driver set that I purchased from Harbor Freight a while back. And I believe these are T6. That's what yep, there we go. So you'll need, if you want to do this yourself, you'll need to get yourself a Torx driver. You'll need a T6 to remove these. And let's see, they're probably just going to go flying everywhere. Tough to do this behind the camera. If you ever watch somebody doing these videos where they're doing a modification or a change to their knife, if you've never tried it yourself, cut them some slack if you see them doing something kind of wonky or if they're kind of making mistakes, because it is really difficult to look through there and make sure everything's in the frame all the time and also complete the task at hand. So let's loosen up that last one. Come on out of there. There it goes. Okay, and now the clip is free of the knife. If some of you have not tried a Spyderco Endura, do avail yourself of one at some point. It's a beautiful knife. I adore Spyderco's VG10 steel. It's one of my favorite steels, and it cuts really well, holds an edge beautifully, and it's just kind of unique. I know there's a lot of other manufacturers out there that use VG10, but it doesn't come up that often, and it should, because it's just so great. These FRN handles, while they are not G10, I really do like them. I love that Spyderco has gone and done these bright multicolored handles. So those are really nice. I've been really happy with mine, with this Endura 4. I really miss my old stainless steel Endura. It was the old style. I forget what generation it was, probably the second generation if I had to guess, and it was AUS 6, but it held an edge beautifully and it was super easy to sharpen. So I definitely have no complaints with VG10, considering I was able to deal with that AUS 6. So there's our clip, and again you can see some of that wear that's already on there around the edges. So let's just take this steel wool to a little bit at the end and just kind of rub it back and forth and see what it does. You will notice I'm not using one of my brightly colored backgrounds today, and that was because I thought that as the steel wool and the coating rubbed together and wore off in little bits, it would probably look kind of gross. So I just went for black. And there's a little quick update for you. It's coming off quickly enough. I am putting quite a bit of pressure, so I am squeezing my thumb and index finger together quite a bit to get that to wear. And maybe now I'll try a little side-to-side action here. I know that people have polished these clips before, but I've never really stopped and read about exactly what is underneath the paint without having to actually, polish it. Is it shiny? It looks reasonably shiny. It also looks kind of dull, though. I mean, dull isn't, it looks dark, but it does look shiny, and I'm not really sure what is the true color of the metal. The lighting in here is getting a little bit bad. I've got my my light on overhead, but I've also got some ambient light coming in through the windows, and it's making it a little bit difficult for me to determine exactly the true state of this steel. It looks to be sort of just a dark finish to that steel. It's not real, it's not, at least at the moment, it's not coming out real shiny and bright. So that's probably going to have to take a bit of polish. Let me grab a bigger chunk of steel wool. Don't ever actually use any more than I need, but I do have a lot in reserve, so I'll try a larger piece. And sorry if this keeps going in and out of focus as I try and do this. Now, when I did my Cold Steel American Lawman video, you'll recall that I actually, went off camera, did some of the work, came back on camera, and I had a couple people tell me that they actually would have liked to have seen the process as it, was happening. So for this one, for this clip, I thought I would show you exactly what I'm going through here. But I can't promise you that I will remove all of the coating from this clip on camera because I don't know exactly how long it's going to take. At least with steel wool. Now there's a number of other things, as I'm sitting here yammering on, there are a number of other materials that you could use to remove this coating. You could use, sandpaper, starting with a really rough grit and then moving up finer and finer to put a nice finish. Now the reason I'm using steel wool instead of sandpaper right away is because I have some really nice high grit automotive sandpaper, and for the life of me I cannot find it. And right before I made that Cold Steel Lawman video where I removed that coating, I actually went and ransacked all of the usual spots for my tools and random items and around the house materials, and I just simply could not find that sandpaper. And the stuff isn't cheap, and I didn't feel like going out and buying all the different grits all over again, so I just simply decided to try the steel wool, and I'd read online that some people had some success with it, so that was going to be my first choice, and it worked really well. It's working well here, but I can see that if I would like to get the finished steel to match that of the blade, I'm going to have to do a little bit more work than just using the steel wool. I don't know, I don't know that it's really going to make the final finish as shiny and as light as I would like it to be. So what I'm probably going to end up doing is either using some sandpaper, or I might have to get out my Dremel with the buffing wheel. I considered using some polishing compound, the stuff I use on my strop, and I wonder if I could just put that. What I'm kind of doing in these videos is maybe I'm really trying to find ways that are inexpensive and easy, and using materials that most folks might have around the house. And I realize that a lot of you probably don't have strop polishing compound around, but you might have some sort of other jewelry or metal polish compound around the house that would probably work in a pinch. So I kind of like that idea versus busting out some heavy duty power tools or something that not everyone's necessarily going to have. I don't know that everyone has a rotary tool with the buffing the buffing wheel and a polishing compound and so on and so forth. So I do like to try and think of ideas that just about anyone could apply. And I think if you don't have any steel wool at home, and 95% of you probably do, all it would take is a knock on your neighbor's door and they just go poking around in the garage for 5 minutes and you've probably got some. Or you could run off to Home Depot or Target or wherever, depending on where you live in the world, and some local store is going to be able to set you up with some steel wool for very, very little money. So it's a good inexpensive option. And obviously the trade-off is using a bit more elbow grease. So I am sitting here wearing away. I see on the timer on my screen that I'm hitting the 7-minute mark. I'm actually going past 7 minutes now. Who knows what time this will be at when you watch this video, in case I've edited it, but as of right now it's at about 7.5 minutes. And you can see that I haven't taken off a tremendous amount, but at the same time, when you consider the size of the clip overall and the fact that I'm doing this in front of the viewfinder, if you sat down on the couch, with like a newspaper or a rag in your lap to catch the little filings, the little bits that come off, as you can see there on my fingertips, and you just sat there and scrubbed away with your steel wool, you could probably have the whole coating knocked out in, I would imagine, less than half an hour. This is taking me longer simply because I'm blathering on in front of the camera and occasionally bumping the camera. Sorry about that. But it's coming out. If you wanted to take the paint off just so that it didn't look scratched up, and you wanted to kind of go to that, it's almost a kind of looking over the viewfinder here. It's almost sort of a dark. It resembles a stonewash finish, but I don't think it is. I think it's just it's just dull, or maybe that paint coating gets into the little porous portions of steel. I think I hear my wife pulling up right now. Yep, I guess she got off of work early. That's cool. Okay, well, she's going to come in here and make some noise and clunk around, and I don't want to get in her way, and I don't want to bug her while I'm making this video. She probably doesn't want to make a candid appearance in the background. So what I will do is continue with this. Hopefully I gave you enough of a view here of how this is working. I'm going to continue on rubbing the rest of this coating off with the steel wool only, show you what it looks like when the entire coating is removed, and then I'll come back and let you know what next step I'm going to use to maybe lighten the overall finish, the appearance, so that it matches the knife steel a little bit better. So stay tuned for that, and I'll be back in a moment here. Okay, I'm back. Here is the clip after I used steel wool on it entirely. It probably took me about double the time that you saw that I was removing the material on camera. And now on the back of it here, I tried a little bit of the white polishing compound that I have. I know some of you are going to say, use the green kind. I don't have any of the green kind. I just have this block of the white. So I used a little bit of white metal polishing compound and did just a little portion on the back of the clip, and it hasn't really made it super shiny. I'm going to try it all over the whole clip to remove these last few little bits of dark spots and see if it's shiny enough. But just to give you sort of a quick little preview, here's what it looks like in this state. So if you just used steel wool on your Delica or Endura or similar painted Spyderco clip, that's about how the two would compare. It's not really, I mean, it's definitely got a stainless steel finish to it, but it's obviously not super polished, and it doesn't quite compare to the blade. But I still think that in that state it looks better than the painted clip did, and especially after the painted clip developed those scratches. So I'm going to hit it up with that polishing compound. I'm going to do it off camera just because it's just sort of a difficult motion. I'll grab the paper towel that I tested on the back with to show you what I'm doing real quick, and then I'm going to go off camera and try and do the rest of the clip. I don't think it's going to make it as shiny as I want, though. But here's a little, you can see the metal that's already collected where I put some of the compound on this paper towel. Using a different material like a cloth rag or something might help, or a piece of felt might be a bit more effective. But again, I'm just trying to use some methods that most people would probably be able to replicate at home that don't involve going out and getting anything, any type of special tool. But I have a weird feeling I'm going to end up hitting up my Dremel to finish this and get it as shiny as I want, but still not bad. So let me use this method for a little while, and again, all I'm doing is just kind of rubbing it back and forth between my fingers with that paper towel and the polishing compound on it, just kind of, kind of scrubbing it each little area, and that's the result. So I'll try this for a few minutes and then I'll come back again. Hang in there. Okay, here's the last segment of the video. As you can see, I've been able to remove a little bit more of that black coating, and it does have sort of a shiny appearance to it. It's obviously not, buffed to a mirror shine, but it does reflect light pretty well and color. So it's actually a pretty good match for the knife at this point, and all I really did, I mean, you can see there, it's not completely perfect, it's not an identical finish, but I think I'm done with it. I think I'm happy with that. I don't feel the need to actually use my Dremel or any further buffing or polishing. I think that actually came out really nice. And to be perfectly honest, while I did use that white polishing compound with just a paper towel, this did very, very little to this actual final finish. In fact, most of what this actually did was remove the last few little bits of the black coating that I wasn't able, or that I didn't take the time to remove with the steel wool. So for those of you that have a little bit of steel wool at home and you want to try this project, I'd say it's very likely that you can get almost an identical finish here with just a little bit of elbow grease and time. And in case you're wondering, if you see those the little bent portions in the clip, what I did to get most of the coating out of there, I actually went back through with a little bit of steel wool wrapped around a toothpick and just kind of scrubbed back and forth in that fashion right there, and then on the outside. So overall, I have to say that I'm really pleased with how this came out. I would say total time, I was kind of walking around the house talking to my wife and doing other things at the same time, but if you just sat down with your steel wool and removed the black coating and tried to polish it down to this level, I'd say you're probably looking at about 25 to 30 minutes all told. So, you know, if you're sitting there watching your favorite TV show and you have a little bit of time to kill, undo your clip from your knife, sit down with a little scrap of steel wool, and then you too could bring your clip to this level. You know, no, you don't have to use that polishing compound. It did help a little bit, but you don't really need it. And you don't have to go get any weird power tools or weird solutions or, you know, any sort of fancy products. So let me put this clip back on with the 3 screws, and I'll kind of show you the finished product. Tighten that back down. And you can kind of see there's a little bit of difference in the finish on the clip and the screw, but really not much. I have to say I'm really happy with how it turned out, and that I can finally kind of put my mind at ease from having those scratches and the black finish. I don't get quite why Spyderco puts that black coating on there to begin with. That seems like an odd choice. Like I said at the beginning of the video, considering that almost none of the colors match the clip and the blade itself isn't black, I don't really know why Spyderco would choose to put a black coated clip on there. Maybe it's just to cut down on reflectivity. But I mean, with the bright colors, you know, someone's still going to know you have a knife in your pocket whether or not the clip is shiny. So not really sure why that's there. It's really not my preference. If I get another Endura or Delica in the future, I am absolutely going to do this same process and remove the coating probably right away, because I think this looks so much better and matches the knife so much more with just a plain stainless finish than that bizarre coating. So there you have it. Quick little tutorial, and I hope you enjoyed following along in removing that black coating, the paint, from the Spyderco Endura's clip, and I hope that you found the information useful and that you might be able to do the same process yourself on your own knife. Thank you very much for watching, and I will talk to you all soon. Bye.